Sophie Ndaba shares heartbreaking story on how HIV/AIDS is killing her. Subscribe to this channel so that you will not miss out on any information. Award-winning actress Sophie Ndaba has shared a heartwarming story about her battle with diabetes, dispelling myths and revealing her true strength. In a speech recently celebrating the 20th anniversary of a security company in Potchefstroom, Northwest, Ndaba recounted his journey, highlighting the devastating impact of the fight against chronic disease in the time with public accusations and emotional judgments. Sophie Ndaba's story began long before her health problems hit. She talks about her early years as a caregiver for her parents, who had type 1 diabetes, which laid the foundation for her understanding of the disease and understanding of her future health challenges. "I became a caregiver for my parents when I was young," she recalls. "We lived in the city, and in those days, it wasn't uncommon to be a caregiver or a nurse. Both of my parents had type 1 diabetes, which meant they needed insulin. I got into nursing because I thought I had a good understanding of this disease, but I didn't know it would be my time. At that time, there were no digital devices to help measure blood sugar levels. So, I would test myself every morning before breakfast and use a color chart to determine my blood sugar levels. These early responsibilities, along with the demands of acting, meant that Ndaba often neglected her health. I was juggling my job and being a caregiver, and I didn't know that the biggest shock of my life was coming," she says. The turning point came when her parents were admitted to the ICU at the same time. With financial pressures mounting, Ndaba worked hard, including selling her home, to provide for her parents. "My parents were diagnosed at the same time and were both admitted to the emergency room at the same hospital," Sophie Ndaba recalls. "My mother was admitted first, and the next day my father was admitted. Luckily, I was able to pay the hospital bills, although it wasn't easy because there was no medical assistance, so it wasn't possible. I could afford it. I bought Pratia Glen, a house to pay for it, and I eventually sold it because I didn't want my parents to be independent. Unfortunately, the money was still not enough." However, Ndaba's mother died while his father was still in the hospital. He continued to experience emotional and financial stress as he cared for his ailing father, who later died of kidney failure. During this time, Ndaba himself was diagnosed with diabetes. "I had diabetes all my life, but I didn't know it," he says. "One day in 2015, while I was walking in a shopping mall, I suddenly felt dizzy and my vision went completely blurry. I can't remember the exact day because I had forgotten all the problems I had ever faced in my life. I immediately ran to the nearest pharmacy and bought a test kit. I was tested and found that my blood sugar was over 20 milligrams per deciliter. I immediately went to the hospital for a checkup, where I stayed for over 2 weeks. And so began my journey with diabetes. Over the next several years, losing weight, experiencing troubling symptoms, and enduring the emotional burden of caring for her parents and battling her own illness. However, amidst these pressures, Ndaba faces another challenge: negative news and speculation about his health.